So I can see you're sitting in front of your library behind you. We were going to ask, have you got any books that we should be reading, blues fans?
I've,
Anything to recommend?
yes, I've actually brought a few down here just to kind of run through and give you some tips. And again, like I said before, I imagine in the blues dance community, there are probably some people out there that are very well read, and you may have all of these books, and it's not news to you, so this is not for you. But if you don't have any books on the blues and you want to know where to start, I can definitely give you some great places to start. I do think that there is a lot of information available online. The Library of Congress is a wonderful resource. It's all free. It's online. Just type in Library of Congress, whatever.com, and you'll get it. And it's all there. That's a resource that is for everyone, that is free and online. There are other things out there. I don't use online resources as much. I think YouTube is a wonderful resource for when I'm learning songs and I just need a quick place to go to just hear like a bit of a song to get it in my head or to listen to quickly. Then YouTube is really useful for that. But I much prefer getting books, because with books you have to sit down and give it your time. And with a book, when you get a good book, you read it, and I always think when a book's really good, it makes you read a bit of it, and then you have to stop. You have to stop and you have to process it, because it's too much information to take in one go. You know, a good book should make you think, and it makes you take time. It slows your life down. You know, so I highly recommend slowing down, getting offline, and just reading some books. And maybe if we remain in this situation that we're in just now for any length of time, then we're going to have some time on our hands, and we are going to be isolated, more isolated than we have been before. And it's a wonderful time to buy some books on the blues. I should be getting commission for this. Damn it.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is an absolute belter. This is a companion book. It's by a guy called Robert Palmer, not the lead singer from Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
Robert Palmer, the blues guy. It's a wonderful book about. Well, it's a book about the blues. It does cover the hill country and all of that, but the book really covers the beginnings of the blues up to the modern day, or at least the modern day when this was written in the 1980s, I think. So this is an absolutely brilliant account of the journey of the blues from Africa, America, up to, Chicago and beyond. Now, there is a documentary that is a sort of companion to this that is excellent and has some brilliant footage. There are some snippets of the footage still left available on YouTube, but the actual documentary has been taken down due to some copyright issues or changes of policy, which I only found out last night, and I was heartbroken to see. So if anyone gets hold of a hard copy of the documentary, then just, rip it and distribute it.
There's another website which is a quite good resource for documentary footage that you might know, folkstreams.net.
Oh, I don't know that. No.
Yeah, so that has a couple of, it's got a Piedmont house party, for example.
Oh yeah.
Which you might have seen.
Yeah.
A couple of other. Yeah. It's got documentaries on all sorts of things, but that might be a place to find these things, and it's not usually. Yeah. It's a public resource. So
I think these documentaries. I've had phases in the past where I tried to find as many things as I could get my eyes and hands on, but I always want to return to these things because you get a lot of inspiration. Because I can't just nip over to Mississippi. I've never been to the darn place. So it's really, for me, a lot of it is a leap of the imagination. So it's really great for people like myself and anyone else who's interested in this music to be able to get a bit closer to the landscape and the people of this place where the music comes from, and just to get a flavor for that, to deepen your understanding of the music that you're enjoying.
Topped up for pickles?
I've got the pickles here. Got me pickles. There we go. Don't get in a pickle, folks. Don't get in a pickle. Keep it real. I'm actually going to have a little drink of this.
Oh, good for health.
Yeah. You don't like pickle juice?
You really just got to drink pure vinegar these days, haven't you? Just to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So shall we pick up where we left off? Just finish off. I've got a few books that I'd like to just run through quickly. I'm not going to read the whole book.
That would be a different show.
Yeah.
Toby reads the entire Deep Blues.
Chapter 1. So, so just to recap for anyone who's just tuned into this, I'm just running through a few books that if you don't have any literature on the blues and you want to get a start, these are some good places to start. So these can be quite hard to get hold of sometimes, but some of the books I mentioned should be available. Even just on Amazon, you might find them. All right. So this one is In Search of the Blues with Marybeth Hamilton. And I'll just read you the little extra there. It says, "Black voices, white visions." So the blurb on the back here says that everyone knows the story of the Delta Blues with its fierce, raw voices, tormented drifters, and deals with the devil at the crossroads at midnight. In this compelling book, Marybeth Hamilton radically rewrites the story. Now, what she goes on to do is talk about the white revival of black music that occurred through the 1950s and into the 1960s and up to this day. The way that we all get to hear about the blues is because a small group of obsessive record collectors, and by record collectors I mean the old 78s, the guys that collected the old shellac records, they got together and went and found some of the last living blues players like Son House and Skip James. Among these white enthusiasts and academics were people like John Fahey, who is a great guitarist in his own right and a very interesting character. So this book deals with that, and it's great for people who, you know, if you're like me, you're a white person who's into black music. This gives a lot of perspective on how this how a lot of the old music was unearthed by white people and how perceptions of that music were often framed by white people, and questions that in a very academic and interesting way. It's a very interesting read for people who are struggling with the cultural exchange of being into blues music and what it means. So great book. It's not a big read, you can plow through it as well. On the back of that, I should probably go into this one because this is one of the books that really starts the literature of people writing about the blues. Yeah, this is Samuel Charters. He wrote several books on the blues. They're all worth getting. He's a great writer. And even though this was one of the first books on the subject, it's one of the best. Now, it was written in the 1950s. It is a little outdated, but still a good book and still well written and stands up next to any of the other ones that were written. It's a beautiful, if you get the original copy like this one, it's just a beautiful document, you know. It has some wonderful rare images in there of some unusual characters. It deals with, you know, it's got the old adverts for Charlie Patton's Pony Blues, and it's just a lovely document. Even the pages are a little bit yellow, you know. This is like the original print. So this is a great book, Samuel Charters, highly recommend it, one of the best. And another slightly more modern book is ironically called Early Blues. This is a little hardback book, a little hardback coffee table book. You can read it on the bus, and just each chapter is a different artist. So each chapter starts with a picture of who we're dealing with, and then a little bit of writing. And each chapter, you know, they're not big, long chapters. It just gives you a little synopsis of the artist, their style, their life, some interesting anecdotes and stories. It's a wonderful introduction. And in terms of who's in it, obviously it's called Early Blues. So it begins slightly before the start of the pre-war blues. So back in 1923, an artist called Sylvester Weaver was a backup guitarist for some of the great female blues singers of the first epoch of blues bands, you know, the female-led blues bands of the teens up into the 1920s. So Sylvester Weaver goes into Papa Charlie Jackson, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Blind Blake, Blind Willie McTell, Blind Willie Johnson, and then Lonnie Johnson, and finishes with Mississippi John Hurt and Tampa Red. So great little book, Early Blues by Jazz Obrecht, another one. And then finally, in the books, this is a wonderful little book by Elijah Wald, a great writer, really sympathetic to the subject matter. And this is an interesting book because I think the first half of the book just sets the scene of the Delta as a landscape and culture. And then eventually he gets into Robert Johnson. So the first half of the book is really scene setting. And then you get to part 2 and it just says Robert Johnson. And then he goes into Robert Johnson. Now you've got the context. Then we'll deal with this artist. And he goes into it. And this is some of the most insightful writing on Robert Johnson's life and recordings that I've ever read. And I think I paraphrased this book earlier on when I was talking about Robert Johnson staring into the mirror, seeing his own reflection coming back at himself. That's what you get. So this is a lovely book. I really enjoyed this. It was recommended to me by a friend and highly recommend it to you. Very good. Now with the, as I was saying before, with the Library of Congress, what you can do is you can get albums on there, you know, through the Library of Congress, and then you can get the sleeve notes to albums as a PDF file, and then go to your printers and print them off as a larger booklet. So instead of this tiny little CD size booklet you usually have to squint to read, I just printed it out at slightly larger size. So you've got this wonderful old sleeve notes to obscure albums with wonderful rare pictures and lots of writing about the blues. So that's the thing that I sometimes do, is get these obscure sleeve notes and print them out, because the sleeve notes are often written by great writers and music enthusiasts and collectors, and they're really well written. And if you gathered a bunch of these together, they would make a book in themselves.